Hello, everyone. Welcome to the seventh episode of the Bigger Than Athletes podcast, a podcast that dives into the unseen side of college student athlete life. My name is Jason Smith, and I'm your host. I'm a current Division One soccer player at Utah Valley University, and I'm majoring in communications. The purpose of this podcast is to uncover the stories of athletes across different sports and divisions and share their experiences both on and off the playing field. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Our guest today is Brycen Miller, a junior goalkeeper of the UC Merced men's soccer team hailing from Fresno, California. Welcome, Brycen.
How's it going? How's it going?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm always good, man. It's always good to see your face.
We saw each other luckily over Thanksgiving, but soon, I'll be back in California soon. And as you guys probably know, that I'm a goalkeeper, and so is Brycen. So we get quite a bit of training done in the off season.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, how's the semester going? How are your classes now that the season's over?
Man, it's chaotic right now. It's the end of year grind, where all the classes are coming to an end. You got projects, papers, finals are coming together. So it's been a bit chaotic for sure. And I mean, the last 2 weeks of season, we're flying all over the place, so missing a lot of class. So you're kind of just catching up, trying to stay above water. So it's almost done though. So it's been good though. Grades are good right now. So we're on the final end of the course.
Definitely.
So
Yeah. So I feel the exact same way. Yesterday, I had turned a math exam, and I had no idea what I was doing. I probably got like a 15%. It's that
I've had a couple of those. I've had a
right.
couple of those.
So
Yeah.
we'll see if we can pull off by end of the year, stay eligible for next season. But yeah,
Yeah.
Bryson, just want to thank you for coming on, taking the time out of your day to do this. But yeah, I just want to hear all about your early life story and how you've gotten to this point.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, where do we start? Where do we start? You want me to just get going right into it or what?
Yeah, yeah, right from when you were born all the way to now.
Ah, man, here we go. All right. Well, so actually I wasn't born in Fresno. I was born in Walnut Creek, like Castro Valley area. And my parents, I'm the firstborn, oldest child. So my parents were there for about 8 or 9 months with me, and then they decided that we needed to be closer to family, so moved over to Fresno, and I've been in Fresno. I mean, since I was probably a year old, basically, and not soon, not too soon afterwards, my younger brother came, Austin. He actually plays soccer as well, but me and him, yeah, we just grew up tearing it up, causing problems all over the place. It's just he's my little sidekick, so we grew up always together. Um, but yeah, growing up, I mean, I was always really active. My mom always had us doing a bunch of different things. I mean, we went everywhere with our parents, whether it was traveling, for business or vacations, they took us no matter what. So we got at a very early age, we got a lot of like world experience, whether it would be in Mexico or Ecuador or wherever, road trips all over the place. So me and my brother definitely got to see kind of the world at a pretty early age, and I think that played a big part in me ending up with soccer. I think because no one in my family plays soccer, so me and I was the first one. I kind of always had a soccer ball in my hand, just kind of all over the place, and I fell in love with it. I started playing like rec ball when I was like 4 or 5 years old. Um, my mom and my dad were the coach. It was one of those situations where, hey, we need a coach for the team. My mom and dad were always willing to do that, so they loved hanging out with all the kids and kind of teaching us and stuff. They obviously didn't know much; they never played soccer, but it was always just, hey, go out there, run, and kick a ball. And I started playing rec ball, so about 4 or 5 years old, and then um, I kept going with. I mean, my mom and my dad were my coach until I was about, man, 11, 12 years old, and then my mom was like, okay, it's getting to the point where you like this a whole lot, and we can't really teach you anything more. We don't know anything enough about this sport. So ended up going and playing for another kind of a rec type club. It was very much trying to be a competitive club, but it was not. It was not anything like that. So it was my first coach that wasn't my mother and my father in soccer. And so that was new, but I mean, I never really gotten any one-on-one like goalkeeper type specific training. I was always just kind of getting thrown in net because we needed one, and I was always willing to do anything for the team. I mean, I've always been that guy. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I ended up in the net, and I was kind of decent at it, so they kept me there. And then it finally got to middle school, and it was like, hey, all right, now I'm actually serious about this. Let's get you onto a decent team. And so I joined my first club team as Alliance when I was 14, 13 years old, 14 years old. And that was my first experience at like, competitive, like this is more than just having fun soccer. And that was a bit of a shock. That was a bit of a shock for me at first because up until that point, it had always been, I'm just having a good time playing with the boys. It was never anything serious. And then I get into this competitive environment, and I've always been a competitor, so it wasn't necessarily that was a shock. But I mean, I was years behind my teammates who are so much better than me, so much more technical. The other goalkeeper had way better idea of what he was doing than I did. So that was a bit of a shock at first, but I mean, I've always prided myself on being a quick learner. So, I got thrown into it, and I just started working. I got a couple of personal trainers, like goalkeeper coaches. I mean, I went through I don't know how many different personal goalkeeper coaches through my soccer career, just because you know it better than anyone. I mean, in the Central Valley, goalkeeping is not loved very much.
Yeah.
So trying to find someone to work with you consistently was always a struggle. But I mean, we always managed it, and my mom was always super supportive. And I mean, she would go out with me and watch YouTube videos, and we'd try and get something in, some training in. But yeah, I mean, I played with Alliance up until my junior year. So I'm kind of going through my club soccer experience. But yeah, up until my junior year. And then senior year, I moved to Cosmos. And that was a great experience because that was my first experience club soccer where I was the number one. I wasn't the number two because up until then I'd always been the number two at my club team, coming in, splitting time, playing the second half. So that was a great experience for me, and it helped me feel kind of like the man, especially finishing out my club soccer career, and in the Valley. So that was a great experience for me. Played a lot, which was also something that, I didn't get to experience too much at Alliances. Um, I didn't get to play as much as I should have, and I mean, as a goalkeeper, getting game time is absolutely critical. So that was a great year for me in terms of club soccer. And that kind of finished out my club soccer career. I kind of went on a tangent there or rant a little bit, but and then kind of going backwards, I played high school soccer. I played 4 years of varsity high school soccer. Um, and there is the same situation. I mean, I was always splitting time. Um, Robbie Rosas was a year older than me, so we were always my sophomore and my junior year we were splitting time constantly. My freshman year I didn't play. I mean, I was still learning, but they wanted me on the team and stuff, so I got a lot of reps with the older guys, which was also massive. I think I enjoyed it, just going out there and training all the time with the older guys. Getting some reps with players that were much better than me. That was always great. But yeah, no. So my junior and sophomore year, I was splitting time with Robbie consistently. He'd get a game, I'd get a game. That's kind of how we split the time there. And then once he left, it was my senior year, and that was once again. I mean, I was playing all the time with my club team, and then my senior year, I got the number one spot, obviously. So I was playing a shit ton with my excuse my language, but I was playing a ton with my high school team as a senior and stuff, and I got a lot of game reps and stuff. So that was massive for me, especially going into graduating high school and soccer, club soccer, going into college soccer. Um, yeah, I mean, senior year high school was great. We ended up winning Valley. We were the first team to win a Division 1 soccer championship. We ended up going to like the state semifinals and playing Brandy Chastain and the Bellarmine Prep boys. That was an experience for sure, but a lot of fun nonetheless. So that's kind of my soccer career. I don't know if that's the direction you wanted me to go, but I kind of summarized it as best as I could.
Yeah, it's a really good stopping point before college. Yeah. So with I remember we were part of the same club team with Alliance back in the day. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you were being coached by Jaime Ramirez, right? That was your kind of your coach for one or two of those years.
Um, Actually, I would play with the older guys every once in a while. I'd play with Jaime's team, but Jaime was the year above us, so I was playing with Greg Rue, Coach
Okay,
Greg Rue. I don't know if you ever met him. He was always kind of a quieter guy in the scenes, but a great coach for sure.
definitely.
So,
I would remember being. I'm not sure if we ever trained together because I remember I used when Jaime was my coach, my eighth grade year, summer 2016, I think. We would go and
yeah.
train with the older guys, older group. So I'm not sure if you
Yeah.
were in that group together with us. You remember like just training with a bunch of kind of like middle school guys at all or not? But
And I'm not sure if we did train together because, like I said, I would jump on with the older guys. Like, I mean, we had a state cup run with the older guys that I jumped on because they needed a goalkeeper. So I jumped in for it was the 2015, 2016 state cup season.
mhm.
But so I was playing with them. I wasn't training a whole lot with them though, because their training was around the same time, if I remember correctly, as my other club team, and I obviously didn't want to leave them in the dust because I wanted to continue to play with my age group. Um, so I was playing games with them, and then I'd go and train with Coach Greg. So I mean, I might have seen you, but there's a good chance I missed you. I don't know if I got to see you guys.
Yeah, maybe I was just
So
looking at the big kids and I see this guy with a beard in high school, like, holy crap, that's a grown man right there.
yeah.
But yeah,
Oh man.
I'd love to hear more about your kind of high school, your senior year experience. Did you win any accolades besides like any personal accolades along with being a part of the
Yeah.
state team?
Yeah, no, so I made the first team all track uh for the goal. They didn't really announce those. I kind of just got a text from my coach like, "Hey, congrats, you got first team all track," which was great for me. I mean, I that was kind of a personal goal of mine is I wanted to make sure I already knew I was the best goalkeeper in the conference, but I wanted to make sure like everyone understood I was the best goalkeeper in for high school ball. So that was a big deal for me. I really enjoyed that because the previous year I got splitting time. I still managed to get second team all track though. So that was big for me. I was glad that I got that accolade. But yeah, that was the one from like the conference, and then I think I got like winter athlete of the year for the high school, like you know uh whatever the superlatives or whatever. So, but yeah, they gave me winter athlete of the year for my senior year as well, which was cool. I mean, it was never that was never the intent, but it was nice to get that recognition from my peers and stuff. So
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you said you knew you were best in the conference because me and Jesus weren't playing high school soccer. Is that what you're trying to say? Or
Hey, yeah, that's exactly what it was. Yeah.
you were the king, you were the senior. We all knew who you were. I
Yeah.
hadn't met you personally yet, but I was like, that's like a grown man, and he's senior.
Yeah.
We won a state championship. All right, like okay, Brycen Miller. Okay,
Yeah.
I think I followed you on Instagram for you guys like won like the state championship, and I was like, okay, you follow me back.
Yeah.
So yeah, so as you continue through, let's jump into your kind of college recruiting, your kind of a college recruiting process. How do you really go about that, and why'd you pick the school you're at right now?
Yeah, no, I mean, the college recruiting process for me was an interesting one because I didn't get a whole lot of help from my coaches in that sense. And so I was kind of blind in that whole thing. I was always told like, "Oh, you got to email." But that was about it. And I didn't really know too much other than that. Oh, just shoot a bunch of emails out. Um, so that was always a bit of a struggle for me. And marketing myself, I've always struggled doing that. I just kind of like imposter syndrome, like, oh, I shouldn't be marketing myself. I'm not good enough.
Hmm.
But that's always been an issue for me is like I got to get out and I got to expose myself, right? And so my senior year came and I'm like, man, I don't have anything. I'm not talking to any coaches. I got to do something. So I mean, I watched a ton of YouTube videos like, oh, what am I doing? What do I need to do? I talked to my coaches and they tried to give me the best advice they could, but really it just came down to emailing coaches, and then I'd end up going to an ID camp or two, trying to throw myself out there. I was talking with UC Davis for a little bit. I went to like three of their ID camps, but that, you know how those ID camps are. They can be a bit of a catfish. So that happened. That was kind of my closest experience. Like, I was talking with the coaches on the phone and stuff, so it was kind of my closest experience to getting recruited in that sense. And then I had, a couple of showcase tournaments, right? And I got seen by the University of Hawaii, a Hilo coach. And so that was a cool experience because I got to go on an actual visit out of state. So I got to experience that, and it was Hawaii. Hawaii's beautiful. That was a great experience. And then I was talking with Coach Jaime, obviously, because I had connections with Coach Jaime in Fresno Pacific, and I talked with Coach Jaime. I met with him, and he was like, "Look, you're not going to play until you're like a junior." And I was like, "Well, I don't know if I want to do that. I want to start playing as much as I can right away." So FPU was kind of out of the options. And so then my coach, Coach Albert, who at UC Merced, he emailed me, or he didn't email me. He actually was talking to my high school coach and was like, "Hey, I'm really interested in this guy. Like, let him know that I'm interested and stuff." And I was kind of like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to stay in the Valley." It was kind of like, I'll just push that off to the side. I didn't really take it too seriously at the time because I was really focused. I was, in my head, I was like, "Oh, UC Davis, like they're calling me, like they're interested, right? I'm gonna get a shot." Um, and then that kind of fell through. They kind of stopped talking to me. They're like, "Yeah, you're a great goalkeeper, but we're gonna send you elsewhere." And they actually recommended me to one of their Coach Schaefer's friends who's coaching at a school in Oregon. It was like a D3 school. So that was another thing. I was in contact with them, but it was just once again not the right fit. And so it really just came down to Hilo, Hawaii, and then Coach Albert at UC Merced, and I started emailing Coach Albert like spring of my senior year. Um, I was like, "Hey, I don't really have." I didn't say I didn't have any other options, but at this point, I had really no options other than Hawaii. So I, emailed him, reached out. It's like, "Hey, I'm interested in attending your school." So I went on a visit to UC Merced, got a little campus tour with my coach, and he was a great guy. Right away you could understand like he cares about me, and he'd been recruiting me for a while, or at least watching my games and kind of taking the time to figure out who I was, right? So that stood out right away. And I went on my visit to Hawaii, and I was like, you know what, this isn't it, and decided, literally within like 2 days after the Hawaii trip, I was like, yeah, I'm going to UC Merced. Gave him the call and was like, "Hey, coach, I'm coming," and he was like, "That's fantastic. I want you here." So that was it. I signed my national letter of intent, and in the spring of my senior year, very end of it, and I was off to UC Merced within a couple months.
Yeah,
So
that's a great story. And to anybody who's really out there who's currently a high school athlete, I think there's a lot of pressures that come along with the recruiting process. Like there's a lot of the anxiety, and there's just a lot of like
uh,
the what's going to happen next. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, and there's a lot of times where like you have that. There's so many factors that go into it. There could be either you think you're too good for, or you think you're good enough to be. There's like the imposter syndrome, where you think you're not good enough to be at a certain place, so it takes away from you performing really good. Or there's you
exactly.
don't know what you're actually, how good you actually are, and so you're kind of shooting for the stars, and
Yeah,
not doesn't
uh,
always work. But I think that the biggest part of your story is go where you're wanted, not where you're tolerated. I think you went to a few
absolutely.
places where you're like, oh, like yeah, we'd like you, but like when you go to somewhere where you're genuinely wanted and they see your value and see who you are, you have such a better feeling that you can just be like, yep, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to go.
Absolutely. I think that's definitely probably the most important thing, especially with my coach. Like, like I said, those initial conversations, the way he was talking with me and my mom, because, I took my visit with my mother. And I mean, just a great guy right away. And yeah, like I said, you could just tell he wanted me to be there. He wanted me to be a part of his program. And I think that's so critical. Because we are more than just athletes. You need to have a coach that understands that and sees you as a person just as much as an athlete and a soccer player. So
100%. Yeah, totally agree. And thanks for kind of plugging into the title of the podcast, Bigger Than Athletes.
Yeah. Absolutely. I figured you'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I did. No. Yeah. So as you got into Merced, you of course you played your senior season with Cosmos as well as you had your high school breakout season a little bit. So you're kind of
Yeah.
you come into Merced, summer of 2019. Am I right about the timeline? That's about summer
Yeah.
2019.
Yep.
So we eventually got connected. We were kind of doing some off season training. I was off to go play academy ball in Arizona, and so we trained a
Yeah.
little bit, kind of got to know each other, and then you're off to Merced in August. How was your freshman season?
The freshman season was a tough one because I just come into this season, I'm on a hot streak, right? I'm feeling great about myself. I'm extremely confident. I go into the season, preseason, extremely confident. I'm probably the most fit guy there, you
Mhm.
know. I'm killing it, right? And as a goalkeeper, I'm running circles around these guys, and then we start playing soccer after during the double days and stuff like that, and I just feel great. I'm doing really well, right? And then our first game of the season comes around, and if I remember correctly, because it was like a little round robin, little exhibition kind of tournament, right? With Westmont and the Masters, and there's another school. But I mean, these teams at the time, these teams are, top 25 NAIA teams, very good teams. I don't
Mhm.
know if the Masters are top 25. I know Westmont at the time, I think, was
Yeah.
top 25. Um, but the Masters was like knocking on the door of top 25. And so the first game of that little, tournament, I didn't play. And then we go up against the Masters the next game, and our goalkeeper, he was a year older than me, right, got hurt, and he was like, I'm not good to go. And I was like, my coach told me that's your game, man. So I go in against the Masters, fresh faced freshman, and I have a great game. I ended up conceding one, which is extremely. It was a 1v1. And it's like the last 15 minutes of the game. It's a 1v1. My defender before the 1v1 totally blew it. He tried to. I don't even know what he was trying to do. He tried to take it down with his like stomach and took a bad touch and got picked. And so it's a 1v1, and I get a big hand to it, and it ends up like deflecting up in the air and then hitting the corner, like top bin's corner, and into the goal. It was a kind of a freak goal, but we ended up tying that game 1-1. But I had a great game. I ended up getting Calpac Defensive Player of the Year,
Yeah.
or
So,
Defensive Player of the Week. No, not the year, not the year,
yeah.
but
So,
Defensive Player of the Week. And so that was big, my first collegiate start, and I had a great game. I helped get us a draw. I think we ended up with a red card that game too. Actually, we were down 10 men, so that was a getting tossed into the fire a bit for my first collegiate start. But that was a great game. And then after that, I didn't really see the field a whole lot.
yeah.
So that was a bit of a shock for me. I was like, man, I go in and I have this great game. I'm playing with a lot of confidence, and I'm just not getting the minutes. I saw the field a little bit more throughout the season, kind of coming in for garbage time, second half minutes type of thing. So that was a bit of a struggle for me. But we had a great team that year. We ended up going um, to like the final site of the national tournament. So it was, like top 16. We were in the Sweet 16 basically. So that was really cool. We ended up playing in Irvine at that stadium field. But my freshman year overall was a learning experience for sure. Freshman season was kind of brought me back down to earth. Like, yeah, you got a lot that you still need to work on.
Hmm.
Um, so that was tough, but it was needed for sure. Freshman year was an interesting one to say the least, but it was good. It was good.
Definitely.
So
I think one of the things that because we kind of caught up a little bit, like every time we'd come home for the winter breaks, stuff like that, we'd always like catch up while we're having trains and stuff like that. And I didn't realize that like in high school you didn't play as much as you probably wanted to in terms of club soccer and high school soccer. So you're kind of used to
yeah,
playing time or kind of playing second fiddle. And so like for me
yeah,
personally, I was always kind of more like I've split time before with guys, but been never been number two that much, except for a little bit of my freshman year of college, my junior year, first 2 months at Barca. But besides that, it's been mostly starting. So like,
yeah.
I think what would you say are pieces of advice or thing that really helped you get through kind of being like that really good teammate for a person who's putting the team first, and how you kind of step in that supporting role, but also is ready to be helping the team if you ever needed that to step in.
Yeah, well, I think what's always helped me is I've never believed I was a number two.
Mm.
In my head, I've always been a number one. And at times that can be hard, right? Because you're the number two, but in your head you're like, no, I'm better. I'm a number one. Like I should be playing, right? And you have to maintain that mentality, but it also kind of you get this conflict in your mind, right? Because you're like, okay, I'm better than this guy, but I can't like, just go out and just be like, yeah, I'm better than you and be a terrible teammate. You have to support them. You have to make sure that you're there for them, making sure that when you're training, you're helping them to become better. Because at the end of the day, team success is extremely important and probably one of the most important things. Um, I would say it's the most important thing for sure. Obviously, at club soccer, you're trying to develop personally and you're trying to make sure that you get yours, right? Because you want to continue and play at a high level as possible. But early on, I think that's helped me big time is just being a good teammate is the most important thing. That's how I was raised. And so I can believe I'm the number one all I want. I can believe I'm better. But at the end of the day, being there for your brother is the most important thing. So there's going to be moments where, especially as a number two or a backup, where you're just angry, you're upset, right? You're like, man, what is going on? Like, why is this happening? Right. But you just kind of have to remind yourself, one, soccer is great. I love playing soccer, right? That's priority, right? You remind yourself that. And two, that I am going to be there for my brother and see him and my teammates succeed as well, right? So I think that's have that belief that you're number one because it can flip on a dime. You got to believe that you are just as good, if not better. But you also have to kind of put your ego aside and be a good teammate for your brother and for your other guys too. So
100%. Yeah, I love that. And I think like there's kind of a trade off for you either trade off character for talent or talent for character. And so, um,
yeah,
yeah, it's definitely difficult to find a person who exudes both, where you have some players are just complete ballers, but if they aren't getting what they want, they're kind of a toxic part to the culture. And I think also like even like I've related to that where like if I'm not getting what I want, sometimes it's very difficult to be present and to be like, no, I want to leave, I want to do
right,
these things. And so and you definitely everybody's had those kind of moments as well, like where just like you just want to throw your hands up and be like, this sucks, I want to be out of here. And
yeah,
yeah, you've been through that, but I've definitely seen you do that season in, season out, train session in, out, even when people aren't even on your team, but just like you're, when we kind of work together in the off season, we're kind of like a team in that way of trying to help each other get better.
yeah,
And luckily, it's nice where we don't feel like we're competing against each other in terms of like a in the session sense, not really for our careers, I guess, which is kind of a
right,
little
right.
let off. But I get to see up close what it's like being with a top person and a top athlete. So um,
Yeah, man.
yeah, for sure. So um, as you finish your freshman year, it's coming to March 2020. So COVID hits, and you're the first person on this podcast who's kind of an older player who's been in college for multiple years. What was it like really dealing with COVID in that spring semester, and how that affected the rest of your college career?
Yeah, that was a wild one for sure. I mean, there was a lot of question marks. We didn't really know what was going on. My spring season got cut short, so we didn't really get to play any games in that spring, which sucked because I was definitely going to be. My coach was telling me like, hey, you're going to be playing in these spring games. You're going to be getting minutes, so be prepared. So that was a blow, right? Because now, all right, I'm not getting playing time, but now it also is going into the following season, right, for fall, because there's a lot of unknowns there. Like, oh, how long is this thing going to last, right? How long is it going to be going? How long are we going to be, locking down? And that's kind of all the questions that are starting at the beginning, and then they hit us with, oh, you got to go home, right? Everything's going online now. So my freshman year, I was in the dorms, and they were like, hey, everyone's got to get out of the dorms. No more dorms, right? Everyone's got to go home. And that was what, March or middle of March, end of March, beginning of April, right? Everyone's got to go home. So that was wild, right? Like, oh, I'm not in my dorms anymore. I'm going back home. I was not expecting this,
Right.
especially as you start to get comfortable. with your dorm mates and all the people on campus and stuff. So that was an experience for sure. Going into my sophomore year of college, right, in my second year of college soccer, once again, lots of question marks. Our coach really couldn't give us anything solid. We thought we were going to have a season, and ended up not happening. It's just kept on going. COVID ramped up even more, right? And so that was a really weird period because uh, there's a lot of downtime. We couldn't really do anything. We couldn't have team trainings. We couldn't even, go on campus because everything is online and they don't want anyone on campus. So it was really weird. Luckily I was blessed with some roommates and friends really they I was able to hang out with and kind of, keep my mind occupied. But I know for a fact a lot of people, struggled, especially that semester, just because there was nothing to do. You had your online schoolwork, but there was nothing else going on, in terms of at least social events, especially. It was total just blackout, there's nothing going on. So that was wild. And then they tell us, oh, you're gonna get you're gonna get your season in the spring. And we're like, okay, great, we got something to look forward to. And then they tell us, yeah, your season's gonna be like 8 games. You're gonna have an 8 game season, and then the national tournament. So it was like, oh, okay, all right. So we have like maybe 6 regular season games and then 2 playoff games for conference tournament. But not all of our teams in our conference are involved. A lot of them opted out. And because, in the NAIA, it's a lot of small private schools and stuff. So at that time, a lot of schools were, struggling for resources, or they just felt it wasn't right. It was, they weren't going to be able to make it happen. So our conference was weak, right? So we ran through that season. I don't think we conceded a single goal in 8 games. In the conference final, I think we ended up winning like 6-0 in the conference final. So that was an interesting year. And then we go to the national tournament and we play the best team in the nation at the time in Central Methodist, and they beat us 2-0 in the opening round of the national tournament. So that season was just weird in the sense that we didn't really have any challenges in the spring, like challenging games, and then we go into this national tournament game with best team in the nation, and we held our own. We lost 2-0. The scoreline is a little not reflective of what that game looked like, but that whole COVID year was just a weird one because our season was completely cut short, and there was just nothing normal about it. I mean, we were wearing masks during training. We had it was just like during our huddles, like we have to keep everyone spread out. Like it was just so different from what you normally doing in a collegiate season. So it was a bit of I wouldn't say a train wreck, but it was a train wreck in the sense like everyone was just trying to get by, really. So it was really nice to hear that they gave us another year of eligibility, because that was not college soccer. It
Yeah.
was not a great it was not a great time. So
Yeah. Could you just give us, we're kind of on a 5 minute warning right now. Can
yeah,
you just give us a little rundown of your past season, this past 2022 season, and then we'll probably try and wrap things up.
yeah, absolutely. Real quick, I mean, this season was another tough one for me personally, at least. I came off of my surgery in the summer, and I was out for 3 months, so I didn't really get to train a whole lot in the off season, which is a detriment, obviously. But I mean, going into the season, I just kind of went in with the mindset of like, whatever happens, happens. But I'm gonna just constantly maintain a positive outlook, enjoy the season, enjoy playing soccer, enjoy being with my teammates. And for me, that was great mentally. At least I've been in a great spot this year and this season. So I enjoyed every bit of it this season, even if I wasn't playing a whole lot. I didn't see the field a whole lot, but our team did fantastic this year. It felt like there are a lot of ups and downs, but I mean, we went through conference undefeated, ended up going to the conference final. We lost 2-1 in the conference final, and then we ended up we still got a national bid, so we ended up going to the national tournament in Alabama. We flew out to Mobile, Alabama, and played the number 4 team in the country in the University of Mobile, and we lost to them 4-1. Once again, that score there were like 2 goals scored in the last minute of the game. It was 2-1 up until the last minute because we just started throwing numbers forward and conceded a goal on a counter, and then I don't even know how the fourth goal happened. It was just like dude just ran down the wing. Like there were like 30 seconds left in the game. Everyone kind of just stopped playing. It was 3-1, and he hit it from like the corner of the 18 and just caught our keeper out. Ended up 4-1. It shouldn't have been a 4-1 game, but it was a great experience nonetheless. They're a great team. Lots of foreigners. I mean, Colombians, Brazilians, Germans, like just
Yeah,
all very big personalities. So, but it was a great season for sure. So
definitely. And looking forward to next season. It looks like the other goalkeeper is looking to move on or has moved on. So it's kind of your time to take the reins next season.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, next year is going to be my year. So we're going to be going for it this off season and in the spring, I'm going to be working to play with Academica. They just got moved up to USL2, so that's going to be massive. I'm really excited for that. And I'm hoping the coach will have me on for another season, but it's going to be a good year. 2023 is going to be an exciting one for sure. Lots to look forward to.
Definitely. We're excited to track you and share your successes, and we're looking forward to working to get all the successes together. But
Absolutely.
yeah, Bryce, I just want to thank you for hopping on and giving us your time today to be on the Bigger Than Athletes podcast. I hope you enjoyed the experience as much as I did.
Yeah, always a pleasure talking with you, Jason.
For sure. And I'll see you probably in 9 or 10 days, and we'll get back to training together. But
I'll see you soon. Yeah, absolutely.
yes, sir. But thank you, everyone, for listening to the 7th episode of Bigger Than Athletes podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. Thanks, guys.